If you're here for some investment tip or a get-rich-quick mantra, you can turn right around and leave. I'm not going to give you any of that because it simply doesn't exist. But I will give you something much more important, a principle I call the iron law. This law is so simple, you might laugh at me, but it's the only method I've ever seen that truly builds wealth and wins at life. This iron law is asterisk, asterisk. To get what you want, you have to deserve what you want. Asterisk, asterisk. You heard me right. It's that simple. So simple it sounds like stating the obvious. But the entire world, especially the world of money, operates on this plain, almost brutal principle. The wealth, success, trust, admiration. You don't get these things just by wishing for them. They are the fair reward for certain qualities you possess. The world is not yet a crazy enough place to reward a whole bunch of undeserving people. So today, we're not talking about stocks or markets or fancy financial statement analysis. That's all secondary. To talk about the fundamentals. We're going to talk about what you, as a person, are truly worth. The temptation of mediocrity is the deadliest poison. Look at the people around you. What are they doing every day? They're chasing the latest hot stock, the next opportunity to get rich quick, the inside information from some analyst on TV. They're like a bunch of fools chasing butterflies in a hurricane, running themselves ragged and never even touching a wing. They never stop to ask themselves, even if you caught that butterfly, do you have the ability to hold on to it? Do you have the right to own it? They call this the external mindset. Their eyes are always looking outward, thinking the problem is a lack of opportunities, bad luck, or that others are too cunning. This is a form of mental laziness. It's always easier to look outward than inward. It's a lot more comfortable to blame the world for your failures than to admit your own incompetence and shallowness. People love easy answers and effortless victories. That's why they buy lottery tickets, go to casinos, and throw their money into derivative products whose names they can't even pronounce. It's like a witch doctor doing a strange dance and telling you it's a cure-all, and the vast majority of people actually believe it. They yearn to get something for nothing, to skip all the necessary steps and jump straight to the finish line. That desire is the fastest shortcut to poverty and misery. Wealth is the shadow of your value, not the prey you hunt. You have to understand a basic truth. Money isn't chased, it's attracted. Like a magnet attracts iron filings, you first have to turn yourself into a giant magnet. That magnetic force is your character and your competence. If you're a rotten piece of wood, you could pile all the money in the world in front of you, and it wouldn't stick. The wind would just blow it away. So when a young person asks me how to get rich, my advice always disappoints them. I say, go back to your books. Try to go to bed a little wiser than you were when you woke up. They expect to hear what to buy. I tell them what to become. This process is slow, very slow, excruciatingly slow. It's not as exciting as speculation. It doesn't have that heart-pounding thrill. It's more like farming. You're bent over every day, pulling weeds, watering, and fertilizing, and you don't see immediate results. Sometimes, for months or even years, you feel like nothing is changing. But if you stick with it, one day you'll find you've cultivated a fertile piece of land that no one can take away from you. Meanwhile, the fields of those butterfly chasers have long gone to ruin, the most selfish investment you can make. Now let's talk about the first element of that magnet, character. This might sound more like something my grandmother would say in Sunday school than advice from a billionaire, right? But believe me, character, or to put it more bluntly, absolute, unquestionable integrity is your sharpest weapon in the world of business. Your reputation and integrity are your most valuable assets, but they can also vanish in a heartbeat. Why? Because the world, especially the business world that runs on large amounts of capital, is built on trust. Without trust, there's no business. You might get away with being clever and deceitful for the first transaction, maybe even the second, but your road ends there. Nobody is going to do a third deal with someone they can't trust. You'll find your world getting smaller and smaller. But for a person of integrity who keeps their promises, their world gets bigger and bigger. People are willing to give them money, to introduce them to opportunities, to lend them a hand when they're in trouble. This isn't because they're philanthropists, it's because it's in their own self-interest. Dealing with a reliable person has the lowest cost, the least risk, and the most stable return. It's a very simple piece of math. I've seen too many brilliant young people, folks with IQs probably much higher than mine. But they're always trying to play at the edge of the rules, always looking to gain a small advantage, always thinking everyone else is a fool. They might achieve some short-term success, but their business empires are built on quicksand. The foundation is unstable, and the slightest tremor will bring it all crashing down. In the end, they achieve a level of mediocrity that is far beneath their talent. So, take the old saying, do unto others as you would have them do unto you, and make it your golden rule. What you want from others, first give to the world. If you want to work with honest people, be an honest person first. If you want to gain the trust of others, first become a trustworthy person. This might sound idealistic, but it's the most practical way to survive. It's a powerful force that will attract equally honorable people and circumstances to you. Your circle of competence is your safest fortress. Now, for the second element, competence. Good character alone isn't enough. You also have to be competent. A kind fool in the business world won't fare much better than a malicious fool. Your goodness must be protected by ability. So, what is competence? To me, the core of competence isn't how much you know, but asterisk, knowing clearly how much you don't know. Asterisk. This is what I often call the circle of competence concept. That each of us has an area we're good at. It might be small, but it's there. Your job isn't to blindly expand that circle, but to clearly define its boundaries. An opportunity arises. The first thing you must do is determine if it falls within your circle of competence. If it's inside, you have an advantage, and you can bet big. It is outside, no matter how tempting it looks, No matter if everyone is telling you it's a sure thing, you must walk away without hesitation. File it in the too tough basket and move on. The vast majority of investment disasters come from people stepping outside their circle of competence. A successful dentist suddenly thinks he can read the financial statements of a biotech company. A brilliant engineer believes he can predict the price of oil. They overestimate their abilities, assuming success in one field translates to success in all fields. This is an extremely dangerous form of arrogance. Remember what Buffett often says: I'd rather work with a guy with an IQ of 130 who thinks it's 125 than a guy with an IQ of 180 who thinks it's 200. The latter will kill you. So, be honest with yourself. Figure out what you truly understand. It can be very niche, like knowing everything about the plumbing business in your small hometown. That's great. That's a place to start. Go deep in that small field. Become the top expert. Slowly but surely, you might be able to expand your circle. But always, always maintain a deep respect for the boundary. Admitting I don't know is the beginning of wisdom, not a source of shame. Become a learning machine or prepare to be obsolete. So how do you build and strengthen your circle of competence? There's only one answer. Become a lifelong learning machine. I can say without exaggeration that every wise person I know reads voraciously all the time. None, zero. You can't expect to get very far in life on what you learned in college. The world is constantly changing, and knowledge is constantly being updated. What worked yesterday might be useless today. If you stop learning, the world will rush past you and leave you in the dust. Look at Buffett. If you timed him with a stopwatch, you'd find he spends about half his waking hours just sitting and reading. The rest of the time, he's mostly on the phone or meeting with a few highly trusted and talented people. It looks a lot like the life of an academic, right? But it's precisely the seemingly dull life that created the business miracle of Berkshire Hathaway. If Buffett weren't a continuous learning machine, we never would have achieved what we have. And you can't just learn about your own field. That turns you into the man with a hammer, to whom everything looks like a nail. You have to learn across disciplines. Draw from physics, biology, psychology, history, from all the important fields, and extract their core, the universal big ideas. Build these ideas into a lattice work of mental models in your head. When you encounter a problem, you can then examine it from different angles using different models. You'll find that many seemingly complex problems share the same underlying principles. You'll be able to see things more clearly and deeply than the specialist who only understands a single discipline. This is a huge advantage and the only way to avoid being blinded by a single perspective. Acquiring wisdom is a moral duty. If you fail to do so, you are being irresponsible with your own life. Invert. Always invert. Avoiding stupidity is more important than seeking brilliance. Another key to building your circle of competence is a way of thinking I learned from the German mathematician Carl Jacobi. Invert. Always invert. Most people approach problems by asking, How can I succeed? How can I make money? How can I be happy? I think differently. I ask, what would cause me to fail? What would cause me to lose money? What would lead to a miserable life? Then I make a list of all the behaviors and decisions that could lead to disastrous outcomes, and I avoid them at all costs. This may sound a bit negative, but believe me, in the long run, consistently not doing stupid things is far more effective than occasionally trying to do brilliant things. Human history is a record filled with all sorts of foolish decisions. Envy, resentment, laziness, deceit, overconfidence. These causes of failure haven't changed in thousands of years. If you can simply avoid them, you're already ahead of at least half the population. When we consider an investment, we spend just as much time, if not more, thinking about how could this fail, as we do thinking about how could this succeed. We check every possible point of failure. Is the management trustworthy? The company too leveraged? Can the product be easily replaced? Is the business model fragile? Only if we can't find any obvious reefs do we consider moving forward. This method can be applied to any area of life. You want a happy marriage? First, think about what causes a terrible marriage, like mutual suspicion, lack of communication, disrespect, and then do everything in your power to avoid those things. You want to be healthy? First, think about what destroys health, like smoking, excessive drinking, never exercising, and then resolutely refuse to do them. That's the power of inversion. It helps you avoid most of life's traps. If I knew where I was going to die, I'd never go there. It's a joke, but the wisdom behind it is priceless. The patience is your nuclear weapon, and compound interest is the eighth wonder of the world. All right, so now you have impeccable character and a well-defined and constantly improving circle of competence. What are you missing? You're missing the final and most difficult element, extreme patience. People in this era are too impatient. They want to see results immediately. They plant the seed today and expect to harvest tomorrow. They can't stand to wait. This is fatal. The truly great wealth is never made in the buying and selling, but in the waiting. You have to let the miracle of compound interest work for you. Compounding is like rolling a snowball. It starts small and insignificant. But as long as you find a very long hill with wet snow, that is a great business that can grow steadily for a long time, and give it enough time, the snowball will grow to a size beyond your wildest imagination. The most crucial ingredient in this process is time. You must have the ability to sit there and do nothing when the market is euphoric and when it is crashing. It requires an iron will. This sounds simple, but it's the hardest part of investing. Human nature is designed to act. Watching stock prices fluctuate daily makes your fingers itch. You get anxious. You feel like you have times to do something. And more often than not, the things you do are wrong. You sell your best companies and hold on to your worst. You buy high and sell low, becoming fuel for the market. The world is full of foolish gamblers, and they will not fare better than the patient investor. So, cultivate the ability to delay gratification. This is one of the most significant differences between successful and unsuccessful people. To forego a small, immediate gain for a much larger future, reward requires discipline and foresight. If you weren't born with this gene, you have to train yourself to overcome it through hard work. Remind yourself every day that moving forward, step by step, even if it's just a tiny step each day, will eventually take you a great distance. Turn your gaze from the outside to the inside. After all this, we've come back to the original iron law. To get what you want, you have to deserve what you want. Everything I've talked about today, character, competence, learning, inversion, patience, none of it is about the external world. It all points to one thing, the cultivation of yourself. Stop looking for shortcuts. Stop complaining that the world is unfair. Stop blaming your failures on bad luck. Turn your gaze away from the external things you can't control and back to the one thing you have complete control over yourself. Ask yourself every day, am I a little more trustworthy today than I was yesterday? Am I a little smarter? Is my understanding of my circle of competence a little clearer? This is a slow, difficult, and even tedious process, but it is incredibly solid. The character and competence you build for yourself, no one can ever take from you. When you truly deserve wealth and success, you'll be surprised to find them knocking on your door in ways you never expected. You won't have to chase butterflies anymore because you will have turned yourself into a beautiful garden they can't resist